you start to make small improvements like more walks or more meditation or a pill or better sleep or exercise, you start to make small things, then they compound on top of each other. They make it better and better and better.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. I have a long-term best friend with me here today. I have Adam Adams, and yes, his mom named him that, but I'm the mom. But Adam is the guy in my life that taught me what true love really was. It wasn't satisfying somebody's needs. It wasn't doing all this. It was doing things because you loved them unconditionally. And so he's always been a huge part of my life. Well, we're going to talk today about small changes you can take, small things you can do to help you better prepare for the shit that hits the fan. When that last minute thing comes and you now have to break another plan, the stress, the anxiety, the worry. What are small things that I can give to myself so I better can handle these things? So before we jump in, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to jump right in.
This is Adam Adams, co-founder of Optimized LLC, where we take the guesswork out of your health. If you're feeling exhausted, struggling with weight, or just not feeling yourself anymore, your hormones might be the problem. And that's why we test, not guess. Analyzing your blood work to pinpoint exactly what's holding you back. At Optimized LLC, we help you rebalance your hormones, boost energy, and reclaim your life. Don't settle for normal. Aim for optimized. Just go to optimized.com to book your free introductory coaching call. It's a free call to help you take the first step toward feeling your best.
Welcome back. Adam, help me to better handle all this stuff that just flies at me every day. And instead of it hitting me in the face, I want to be able to catch it. I want to be able to do something about it. And what are those things I might be able to do to help me be prepared?
Well, I was thinking about your listener today. I was thinking about what they would really benefit from. And I feel like a lot of us, we're stressed. We've got a lot going on. We're at work. We have kids. We have a spouse probably that we need to keep happy or clean up after or whatever it is. And I was thinking that I can certainly relate to that. And I've had a couple of like small tweaks that have served me and got me to a different place in thinking about just trying to give the listener something beneficial. A couple of small hacks that seem to make a big impact. And I want to bring up this book just called Compound Effect. Darren Hardy, I believe, is the author of it. And I read it in 2018. And for me, 2018, I read like 46 books, which is just dumb, almost one a week. And that was one of them that it sticks in my head a lot more than others. And here's the interesting thing that I think also the listener can gain something from. Most of us, when it comes like New Year's, we decide like, hey, I'm going to exercise. I'm going to go to the gym all the time. I'm going to eat different. I'm going to be on this diet. I'm going to start showing my kids X, Y, and Z. I'm going to start showing my spouse X, Y, and Z. I'm going to pick up a new hobby or whatever it is. Like I've been doing all this stuff for everybody else. Now I got to do something for me. Or I've been doing all this stuff, without staying fit or healthy or whatever. That book says it a little bit differently. It's like you don't have to change completely overnight. And I want that to be kind of the message from doing these small hacks is to the listener, you don't have to do all of these and you don't have to do everything. I'm not asking you to go from being a vegan to a carnivore or carnivore to a vegan or from not ever working out to working out 7 days a week for 4 hours every single day. We're just looking at microscopic changes that give you huge results. So, can we start on cortisol? Can we talk about cortisol?
Yeah. What is cortisol?
So there's a couple of stress hormones. There's sex hormones, stress hormones, there's happy hormones, and there's thyroid hormones. There's things that do weird things and different things and beneficial things and bad things to our body. And cortisol is one of the ones that kind of holds the other hormones back. So if we are stressed, if we're freaking out, if we've got too many things on our plate, we've got soccer practice, we've got gymnastics practice, we've got waking up our husband or our wife, we've got all of these other things going on, work on our own. We got 40, 50, 60 hours a week of work that we've got to do. Maybe we're starting a new business, whatever it is. There's going to be stress and anxiety. And if it's something that happens for a long time, we can call that chronic stress. If it's something that just happens quickly, we can call that like acute stress. But cortisol is going to spike and stay for anything like the chronic stress. So if we're not loving our job, if we're always having to clean up after our husbands, if we're the main person with our kids all the time, it's hard to get past that. Some of the things that cortisol will do is it'll make it hard for us to sleep better. Some other things that cortisol will do is it'll ruin our other hormones. When we
May
have
I ask a question?
yeah.
Is it too much cortisol or lack of cortisol?
Too much of the high stress is too much of the cortisol.
Is what's causing the issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
it causes the issues. It makes, for guys, for example, everybody needs testosterone, but guys' testosterone is way higher than a woman's testosterone. But if we have a little bit of cortisol, our testosterone goes way, 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 way down. And for women, you don't already have very much testosterone, but you need some. And when we have that cortisol, the testosterone goes way, way, way down. Another problem is when we get fat around our bellies, that's because of cortisol. So if we're stressed and overeating, then we won't just gain fat, we'll gain fat in places that show. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So cortisol also is going to, like I said before, it keeps you awake at night. So sometimes we just can't sleep very well because we have too much cortisol. Actually, I have to be completely honest with the listener. That was me last night. That was me with the time changing and everything else is happening for me right now. I'm like, couldn't sleep. And I felt it today. I noticed it today. And so here's some of the things that I did to try to avoid it. I practiced gratitude. And that's, to some people, that's just praying to their God or their universe. And for me, it's just taking a moment, taking a breath, and breathe in, breathe out slow, and then just say anything that I can think of that I'm truly grateful for, especially if it's the thing that I'm stressed about. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I had tons of weight around my belly. It was just way too much. My gut was sticking out. People were thinking I was pregnant. As a guy, people were like, "Are you pregnant?" That happened to me more than once. And I was going around and trying to figure out how to solve this. And I read that book, and Darren Hardy talks about a few things you can do. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to practice gratitude every morning and every night. And whenever I get too stressed, which happened a lot during the day, I'd be like, oh crap, I got to put out this fire. So I'd take a breath and then I would say, you know what? I'm grateful to have this issue in front of me right now. And then I would say the reason. And my kids, I'm like, I'm starting another business. I've already got a couple businesses. One's failing. Why am I starting another one? And if I just didn't have my kids, I would be so much richer. I would be so much easier to have everything that I want. I was kind of like the single parent. I lived with the mother of the kids, but I did most of the stuff. And I'm like, okay, if I didn't have to do that, then I would be so much better. So I start like resenting the kids. So I switch it in my mind and it's just like, hey, I am so glad that I have these two loving kids. I don't always treat them the best, but they love me anyway. And that's a beautiful thing. What can I do to show them that I appreciate them instead of resent them because they're, quote, holding me back in business or health or whatever? It's like, I can't go to the gym because I'm always doing this stuff with my kids, or I can't do this, you know? So I start resenting it and the cortisol spikes. I take that breath, I relax, and I say, these are the things I'm grateful for. And I feel it immediately after one or two breaths that, hey, life's okay. But by tweaking things small like that, you start to compound. That's the compound effect. You start to allow yourself to really feel better, more relaxed, more level headed, more appreciative. And so instead of snapping at the kids or snapping at the spouse the next time, or snapping at your employee or the people on your team, you have a different way of approaching it. Just today, somebody that works with me at Grow Your Show, I have a podcast agency. She was, she did something with my emails that I told her to do the exact opposite. And I was trying to coach her. And I didn't sleep so good last night. I was trying to coach her, and I didn't know how I was coming across to her. But what she ended up saying is, this isn't working out for me. She was essentially about to quit. So I sent her a voice note. I said, look, I appreciate you. You can quit if you need to quit. Here's what I'm seeing. This is what I think's going on. And I just let her know that I think if you are making excuses for why you made that mistake and you're not just being accountable for what role you played. Like, I get the excuses. I get this already. I understand, but you don't need to be saying that. I want you to just own up to what you did wrong. That's how you get better. And she took that breath just the same way. And she's like, you know what? You're right. I was out of line. And she mentioned that there's a death that had happened. And she goes, this has been on my mind. So because something like that has been on her mind, it kept her awake a little bit. It stressed her out. It was sad for her. It's hard for her to act appropriately in other situations. So that's a big thing. When you can get rid of cortisol, you can get rid of belly fat. When you can get rid of cortisol, you can treat other people kinder. So that's a big thing, and a few ways to do that. I already mentioned, what was it? Gratitude. I already mentioned sleeping better. But if you go for walks, write it down. You're like, what would a walk do? If you go for a walk, it already starts making you feel better. If you can meditate or pray, it'll start making you feel better, be more centered, be more aligned, get rid of some of the stress. If you can practice gratitude or sleep more, you'll also start feeling better. You'll be more equipped for the next situation.
All right. So help me understand this, because I'd much rather take a pill.
Right?
I know I lowered this cortisol without doing all these other things. But, I know that there's been years and years of me being second fiddle because everything else was so important. And doing those small things fell off the list because I wasn't thinking of me. So I like the idea of the gratitude. I think that is so core to our happiness, not only our slender bellies, but just our overall, what we look at is what we get. What we focus on is what we become. And so why not pick the good things? Why not pick the things that make you smile? And then you're talking about sleep. And some people are going to say, well, I can't control how I sleep, and I'm not really wanting to be chemical dependent, like knock you out. I mean, look at what Michael Jackson did. He used to just get a
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is, but I'm trying to decide, did they do it intravenously? I don't know how they did it for him. But he would take a drug and rest, and that was how he slept. That's not healthy. How do we get healthy sleep?
Yeah.
Because uh, being dependent on sleep medications, not maybe it's the best thing. Is it just as good as being able to do it yourself?
I love the question, and think this is a best way to think about how things work in our body. Lots of different things are upward spirals and downward spirals. You start to make small improvements like more walks or more meditation or a pill or better sleep or exercise. You start to make small things, then they compound on top of each other. They make it better and better and better. You start to avoid those things or do the opposite, and they slowly spiral down and get more out of control and more challenging and more difficult. So you also asked though, hopefully that answered your question. If not, give me a follow-up. But going into the pill, there actually is a great pill that can really help a lot of people. And it is something that is called KSM 66. It's a registered trademark. It's a type of ashwagandha root. So there's this thing called ashwagandha that makes you lower your cortisol, helps you relax. It helps guys and girls in the bedroom. It also helps you sleep better, and it lowers your cortisol. It boosts testosterone and other sex hormones. So ashwagandha KSM 66 is something you don't have to be dependent on, but it can be a really good thing to wake up in the morning and take ashwagandha, because right when you wake up, your cortisol spikes, and that's what helps you stay awake. But
Oh,
if you go and have coffee, you increase the cortisol extra high, and it kind of messes with your circadian rhythm. So if you switch that to something that kind of relaxes you or kind of takes the stress away, ashwagandha KSM 66, you can wake up and you can have a little bit better day.
I'm very skeptical about this. Now,
Similarly, you can take it at night to help you relax and
okay.
get better sleep. You're skeptical of KSM 66.
No, not having caffeine first thing in the morning.
And so is the listener. The listener's like, I'm turning this off right now. And I edited out my cuss word already. I'm turning this off right now. That's what they're saying. I totally get that. There's these things called GABA receptors,
Mhm.
GABA, and things like alcohol, marijuana, coffee, cocaine, other substances. They mess with the GABA receptors, so they make it harder for us to be happy without them. So if you avoid some of these things, if you're already doing all four of those, if you're doing the cocaine and the marijuana and the coffee and the alcohol, cut it down to two of them, maybe. But if all
Well,
you're
which
doing,
is
if all you're doing is coffee, here's a tip or trick that can work for you. I have a coaching client. I coach people in fitness, men and women. What's his name? Justin. He was somebody who had to have 6 giant big gulpfuls of Diet Mountain Dew. He's a Mormon from Utah. He's not allowed to have coffee. He doesn't drink coffee, but he definitely had the caffeine, and he needed a lot of caffeine. And I go, hey, Justin, first thing you need to do is the caffeine does a lot of things to you. It's the GABA receptor thing. It extra overspikes his hormones or her hormones. Essentially, for him, he went into this place because he had so much caffeine per day that he really truly needed it. So I moved it. I said, you can have up to 2 small Mountain Dews or Diet Mountain Dews. It just has to be between the hours, I told him, of 10 and 2. And so he started doing that. And it took him 2 weeks. He had the cravings. He didn't feel right for a couple of days. But after 2 weeks, he's like, I'm just going to get rid of the caffeine. I don't even need it anymore. So it's interesting. I don't drink anything with caffeine. I don't need caffeine. I don't think about caffeine. I don't want for caffeine. Every now and again, I'll have like a green tea or black tea. Once a month, maybe I'll have a coffee, but I just don't ever want it or need it. I'll have it because it tastes good, right? I like coffee with cream every now and again.
I like
Anyway.
cream with a little bit of coffee.
Cream. I love that. Cream with coffee. You know, your coffee, by the way, the one with the vanilla powder and everything else, and I think there was some was there some type of beneficial
Goat milk and MCT oil.
MCT oil? Yeah, that is delicious. That's something that I want more of, but not because of the coffee, not because of the coffee. But going back to it, if you have too much caffeine, it just makes you kind of need caffeine. For Justin, he went down to 2 per day instead of something like 6 giant ones. And he moved it to 10 to 2. And after 2 weeks, he gave it up 100%. He's like, yeah, I don't need it anymore. Now I feel a ton of energy on my own. I don't need this. I don't feel like I need this. I don't crave for it anymore. So it just kind of depends. There's something else. It's your gut health. And I don't know if we have time to go into all the stuff for gut health on this episode, but it's interesting. Gut health affects brain health more than almost anything else. When we're eating like crap, we kind of feel like crap. Our brain function kind of feels like crap. Our mood is kind of crap. Our sleep is kind of crap. It's a downward spiral. With Justin, he started exercising just 3 days a week, 15, 20 minutes at a time. And he started trying to get more steps than he did before. And the only other change was avoiding caffeine. And he got more energy out of it because it was a upward spiral. He started feeling better just by doing small things. So ashwagandha KSM 66 lowers cortisol, increases testosterone. It's a thing that helps men and women in the bedroom. It's a thing that helps men and women sleep better. It's a thing that helps men and women lower that stress. So you can kind of approach a situation that's stressful, but with more of a level head.
Sounds like the magic pill.
It's
So
a magic pill.
definitely need to do this one. I look at it and really, to manage that stress. And the days I did get good sleep, you're right. Bring it on. I am much more capable of handling not so good a days. When you are running on empty, it just feel like a blindside. It can feel like it slapped you up against the side of the head and you can't think straight. And so I love anything that can help us get better sleep. I love anything that can help us get that gratitude and that thankfulness and moving more. And these are simple things, If all you can do is go to the bathroom that's down the hall a little bit further than the first bathroom at the office, that's more steps.
Yeah.
If you park at the farther part of the parking lot instead of as close as you can get, that's a couple more steps. And it can just be simple things that aren't taking up massive amounts of time. And so I like these little hacks. What can I do this week? I'll park at least one car space further away from the door. Little things, little steps where, oh, that was easy. I can do that. So we've talked about sleep and not really nutrition, but, really being able to manage that cortisol. Is there other things I can do to help me be more prepared for those really crappy days?
Yeah. There's a few things, honestly. If I can actually talk about what happened today. Today
Okay.
was a day that I didn't sleep so good. Um, there's a few things that happened. I didn't take my sleep aids last night either. And so I woke up in the middle of the night and I was a little stressed. And I had a whole bunch of meetings today. It's not normal for me, but I had my 8:30, my 9:30, my 11, my 12, my 1, my 2, and my 3 o'clock. So it's just back to back. Hadn't had a chance to eat much. Basically woke up and went straight to work. Didn't have a chance to eat much. Wore a hat instead of did my hair. Today was one of those days. And before this, I knew, hey, I've got to be on my game if I'm going to be interviewed on a podcast. I didn't feel that great. I felt tired. I felt kind of cranky, if I'm being honest. And that happens when we don't sleep so well. Today, all I did was took a 5 minute, well, it was probably like a 2 minute cold shower. I put the shower on the coldest setting it possibly could, and I endured it as long as I possibly could, which is maybe 2 minutes. It got painful on my forehead for a second. I'm like, that's so cold that it's like giving me a brain freeze or something. And I hate it when I'm doing it, but this is a subtle hack that not everybody has to do, but it works. It way increases dopamine in the best way possible. It way increases other happy hormones. You wake up, you feel rejuvenated. So I have a cold plunge. I like doing that. I like doing hot baths. I like doing, whenever I'm at your house, I'll go in the hot tub. Whenever I am at the gym, I'll try to do some sauna after. But truthfully, ice baths and any type of cold exposure and any type of heat exposure does a lot for us on top of what everybody else talks about. Yeah, sure, you might feel like a bad A by going in the cold, but that's not why I do it. I do it because I feel amazing. I get so much more energy. I'm not saying your listener has to do it, but it took me 2 minutes to feel way better. You know what I mean? So that's a couple things.
2 minutes of not so good, because you went from not feeling good to feeling worse for 2 minutes, and then you were like amazing.
Yeah, I have so much energy now, but before I did that, I was just like, I haven't had a break. I didn't sleep so well. Like, I'm not going to be able to do this interview today. And it's like, hey, let me take a 2 minute cold shower, and you get out and you feel incredible. I don't want to try to talk everybody into doing that specific thing, but there are things that we can do that really benefit us. Going for a walk, getting sunlight, taking off our shoes outside, grounding ourselves, or earthing, some people will call it. Yoga, meditation, praying, practicing gratitude, sleeping better. And here, I'm going to give you a couple other pills that should help everybody. I'm going to write them down to make sure I'm saying them all. D3, K2.
Yep.
What else? Magnesium. I'm going to say magnesium glycinate.
Okay.
K2, D3, magnesium glycinate, zinc. Zinc's good for almost every human on the planet. D3, K2, magnesium glycinate, zinc. What's another one that I'm missing? I swear I'm missing one. I think that if the listener was able to take those four, it really probably doesn't matter what is going on, if they're male, if they're female, if they're overweight, or if they're have no extra fat, if they get a lot of sleep or not. Those four things should make you look and feel better automatically. They tweak your hormones so that you can produce more of the happy hormones and more of the sex hormones, and avoiding some of the cortisol that kind of tanks everything else and makes us feel bad and puts weight around our waist. So if we could say the ashwagandha and then vitamin D3, K2, magnesium glycinate, or zinc. Those are some other beneficial things. Exercise is interesting, like lifting weights, doing resistance training. What happens is a bunch of hormones that kind of get stored in our muscles. They are able to be released. They go into our blood system and they get to our brain. So by exercising, by doing some strength training, leg work, arm work, upper body, lower body, we literally will feel better. Not only will we be gaining some muscle and burning some fat, but we'll release a whole bunch of hormones into our blood system and into our brain that allow us to think better, feel better, approach situations better, lower cortisol. There becomes, when we work out, there's a temporary cortisol spike, an acute cortisol spike, and after, the cortisol goes lower than baseline. So we exercise, we feel stressed while we're working out, like I did with the ice bath today, or the shower, I mean. And then it starts to kind of relax and get better. So we feel better the rest of the day if we start our day with some of these things like exercise.
I know that I can easily do every one of those things. And then the medications or the supplements that you mentioned are some that I have taken in the past, but I spent some time trying to get away from all pills.
Okay.
And now it's time to be okay with the right ones. It's like, which ones are the ones that actually help us? And if we were 100,000 years ago, or let's even just go 1,000 years ago, the earth was a lot healthier. It had nutrition in it, and we kind of depleted it. So our food we get today isn't as nutrient rich as it was hundreds of years ago. And so it just makes sense to add those things. We're not outside as much. Where are you getting your vitamin D? We have a different lifestyle than what our bodies were made for. And when we learn to compromise for the things or add for the things that are now depleted in the environment or in our way of life. I mean, you used to go out and plow the field and be outside all day long. You need those vitamins that you used to get. And so it's okay to add some into your life. If you want to be pill-free, then you need to probably eat completely organic and all these things that where are we getting the right nutrients from? And so I really like, a lot of people use these as natural antidepressants.
Yeah.
These are pills that help us feel happy naturally because they're working on our natural part of our body to produce the happy hormones. They're not giving you a happy hormone and actually shutting down those systems. They're activating those systems, bringing them to life. And so what a great way. If all I could do is be gracious, I'd be the happiest person in the world. So it's going to take a little bit more than that.
Practice every morning, every night, whenever you get stressed. Just show the grace or the gratitude.
Oh, I love it, Adam. And I know that we've spoken a good amount of time. I think we've really come up with a couple ideas. What I'd like to do next is for you to share a little bit about you, your business, how someone could get a hold of you to partake in your wisdom, because this is one place where the kid definitely outgrew the parent, and I listened to his wisdom, and I'm so grateful to have him in my life. And I know that you can help a lot of people with what you've learned and what you've done. And so share that with us, and then let's get that one thing that we can do this week. What's that one thing?
Perfect. Best way for me to share what I do is with a quick story. I'll try to make it fast, but I tried to get fit and healthy and looking better, feeling better for 3.5 years on my own, just learning whatever I learned on social media. They talk about no carbohydrates. They talk about fasting. They talk about exercise. I tried a lot of it, and I did lose 26 of the pounds that I needed to lose in 3.5 years. And then I went and looked at my blood work. Once I looked at the blood work, I studied every biomarker. Everything that, by the way, when you do look at your blood work, you want to look at a bigger, larger panel. Most of the panels are like 10 to 15 biomarkers that the doctor will give you. The panels that we give clients are 46 biomarkers. So it gives a more comprehensive idea of what's going on. When a doctor looks at your blood work, they'll put you against the average American. And the thing that's important to note when it comes to the average American is that they are overweight. The average person is 26 or 29 pounds overweight. An average woman is 26 pounds above where she wants to be. The average guy is 29 pounds above what's healthy for him. So we look at the blood work, that's a big part. And as we see it, we see, hey, you're stressed too much. It doesn't look like you're sleeping. It looks like your blood sugar is too high over the last, your A1C, your blood sugar over the last like 2 to 6 months is too high. It looks like this or it looks like this. Then we spend the time to just pull it apart and understand how do you affect each biomarker? And I'm getting to a reason for this. Once I geeked out on the blood work and made some small tweaks, the truth is I lost 27 more pounds. So just 1 extra pound than I did the first 3.5 years. But I lost the hard part, 27 pounds, in 3.5 months. So 53 total pounds in about 4 years, just less than 4 years. But most of it came off after I understood what was happening with the blood work. So a call to action, a thing that the listener can do is, yes, we talked about D3, K2, magnesium, zinc, ashwagandha, KSM 66. Those will help practically everybody. If you can find somebody, and we do this, but if you can find somebody who looks at your blood work, not against the average person, but they look at it against an optimized person, somebody who feels good, then that's the first big step. And I have 3 people that I'm going to try to fly through this. We helped a young woman to be able to, who never had a period. She was like either not having them for months or she would have them for 2 months straight. And it was scary. It wasn't good. She had a pituitary tumor. We did this without any doctor's medication. Gave her a couple of protocols. She implemented that. And a few months ago, she got her blood work tested because her periods were to normal for the first time in her life. She wasn't feeling suicidal for the first time in her life. She got her blood work back and it was perfect. The doctor says, you don't need medication anymore. It was done naturally. Another client is going through menopause. Her name's Layton. And she's freaking out. I think you might have a couple of listeners who are going through this because that's just like the demographic. I think of a great show like this is somebody that's in their 40s, in their 50s. And we had this woman, Elaine, and she's like, I'm losing all my muscle. I'm gaining a bunch of fat. I'm freaking out. I can't sleep. It's getting worse and worse and worse. We read the blood work and we can see, hey, these are the small things you can do to tweak that. And now Elaine's sleeping better. I look at her data every single day. Today, she slept over 8.5 hours. I asked her how she's feeling. She's feeling great. She's lost weight. She's out of town, by the way. She's out of the country. She's in Portugal. And she's getting her steps every day. And she's excited about things instead of stressed about things. And it kind of doesn't happen if you don't start by seeing the blood work in this way. So that's a big thing that I would recommend to people is get somebody who can really read that. Doctors are already going to tell you, you need to be checking your blood work at least once a year. But why not check a full panel? Why not get it against optimized humans instead of average overweight humans that aren't feeling good? That way you can know the tweaks that you need. So that's a big thing that I would definitely recommend. And then I want to turn it over if you got questions or if you need any specifics on something.
I did want to kind of add to your estrogen or your hormone story is I got to a point where I was very snappy and very quick to anger. And someone mentioned, check your hormones. So I talked my doctor into checking my hormones, and he gets them back and he says, they're all in the normal range for a person your age. Well, I don't want to feel 60. I want to feel 20. What can I do? It was, he was first thought, I don't need to do anything for you because you're normal. But that's normal for someone who's winding down, and I'm not ready to wind down. And so we did get some estrogen and some other hormones into my um, daily process. And I'm not snappy. I'm not angry. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a whole different person. I can go out to eat and not want to rip the waitress's head off. Yeah, it's little things were driving me nuts. And so I completely support I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not here for any medical advice. Please contact your doctor for that. But they do look at normal for your age, normal for what's going on. And is that what you want to feel like? Or do you want more out of life? And there's doctors out there that are going to help.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of what is it? What are the I'm just like losing this one term. It's doctors that are more holistic. What's the term for the
Naturopath? There's
naturopath?
naturopaths and there's DOs.
Okay.
There's MDs and DOs and naturopaths, and they all have they all have that 4-year type
Yeah.
training, but then they specialize in different areas.
I've been interviewing doctors, not like huge. I've only talked to 12 in the last 8 months, but I've talked to, a dozen doctors now and just ask them honestly, because if you look at the actual statistics where the doctor's answering to another doctor, then they will say that they don't always feel comfortable looking at blood work. They feel like they're confused about blood work a lot, but it's nowhere near the stat that I'm about to share with you. It's way lower. If you're a doctor and you're being interviewed by a doctor, it sounds like you're going to be more likely to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm comfortable with this." But when I asked him, I was like, "Hey, do you do this? Do you feel comfortable about this?" Only 2 felt comfortable, and the other 10 felt like they weren't comfortable understanding the blood work in its entirety. And I think a lot of like me and my business partner, who's got a master's in this stuff, we look at it differently. And I think a naturopath would look at it a little bit differently than maybe just the regular old physician. And I don't mean old, but regular physician. I think that you would want to look for somebody who doesn't just prescribe you a medication. For example, I work with a lot of guys as well as women, and frequently the guy's told you need to get on testosterone if you're over 40 years old. We've got a family member who got onto testosterone really because he's like 50. And his friends are like, "Are you kidding me? You're not on testosterone. That makes you feel so good." He didn't need to ever take injections of testosterone. He's taking it every single day because many of them seem to just be like, "Oh, here's the prescription to solve that." By the way, they don't tell you that it comes with like 100 other issues. Like the testosterone, all of a sudden now his whole blood count is high. Now his red blood count is high. Like he's getting sick now. He gets colds more often now because of these other issues that could have been solved by trying to do it naturally. So
I'm with you on, really making your choice. And the Eastern philosophy versus the Western philosophy and medication or healthcare is we really focus on the symptom and fixing the symptom instead of the cause. And so the deeper you can go, what's causing this and fix it there, you're going to fix a whole lot of other problems. But when you only fix the symptom, you're going to compound the problems underneath from the source. And so it's really, where am I going to focus? So I definitely agree with everything that you've said. but also that we're not licensed medical or mental professionals. We're just here for entertainment. What is that one thing that you would think is the key thing for them to try? Is it the change in the supplements? Because we've talked about so many, it's just starting a gratitude practice or reading a book. What is
Yeah.
that?
Well, that it's hard to say one thing, but you got to start with one thing. So I'm going to share. Think about all of the options that we discussed about lowering your cortisol stress hormone. Walking or meditation or gratitude or exercise. Just think, hey, I need to lower cortisol. What's a thing that is comfortable for me? So I would say the call to action for the listener is, which one resonated with you? How can you lower your cortisol? Is it KSM 66? Is it going for a walk? Or is it practicing gratitude? Think of your thing to slightly change cortisol. It's going to help your belly fat. It's going to help you feel better. It's going to help you not snap it at your waitress or waiter or whatever, your kids. So is that okay if I say to the listener, figure
Absolutely.
your way to just lower your cortisol?
And that's the whole thing is we all are in a different place. And saying the only thing you're going to do this week is walk 1,000 more steps than last week isn't going to help everybody. So
Yeah.
it is, what is that thing? And you know it. We feel it in our bones. It's like, okay, mine's going to try to be coffee. I'm going to try to not have caffeine until 10 o'clock. And I use the word try. I am really scared to say it another way. But for tomorrow, I will wait until 10 o'clock and I will not have caffeine until then. And I'll set my goal again tomorrow.
I love it. I love it.
Adam, thank you so much for joining me. It is such a pleasure to spend time with you. We don't live close together, and I love it every time I get time to just hang and listen to your wisdom and know that you're my best friend, one of my best friends. And how amazing is that to have family members be your best friend? So thank you for joining. Friend, I've said it, we're not licensed professionals. We're just here to help show you a light on your path and help you to see where you could avoid some stumbling blocks. Have a great day and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Lara Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.